Today we'll be taking a look at the elusive Yamaha YZF-R7, which is also known as the OW02. Most of us know the Yamaha R6 and the R1, as those have been produced for decades and are still being produced even today. But the R7 is not just another run-of-the-mill sport bike. The R7 is the rarest example of a YZF ever created for the public, and you would be lucky to even see one in person, never mind actually being able to sit on one, and you can forget about ever even being able to ride one. And today, you are going to learn everything there is to know about the super rare Yamaha R7. But before we get into the R7, I have an offer for all of you. If you enjoy motorcycle videos like this one, then you have a limited time offer to go down and hit that subscribe button. Currently, my channel is sitting at 90,000 subscribers, and you could be one of the first 100,000 to subscribe to me, which is pretty cool. And it will help keep you up to date on all my new videos, and as a side bonus, it will help support me to continue to allow me to produce these videos for you guys consistently and for free. Anyway, let's get back to talking about the Yamaha YZF-R7. First, I would like to talk about why this R7 is so rare, and there are a couple reasons for that. The first is that this bike was only produced for one model year, 1999. And the second reason is that it was a limited production model with only 500 units being sold. Yamaha did not want the public to actually own this bike and only produced just enough to abide by the homologation rules, meaning that only 500 street legal versions of this bike ever existed, and that was 20 years ago. I'm sure many since then have been either crashed or destroyed too, making this bike even more rare. And of those 500 units, only 50 examples were slated to be imported into the United States, 10 of which were earmarked for Yamaha's factory team. The waiting list for the remaining bikes far exceeded supply. Having the money to afford one just was not enough. You had to be someone to actually get your hands on one. Like I said earlier, you would be lucky to ever even see this bike in person, forget ever sitting on it, and don't even dream about riding it. The chances of those are impossible for the average person and is probably reserved just for the famous people like Jay Leno and for museums. Now, before we dive into the specs and the history of the R7, can we just take a few seconds to admire the looks of this beautiful bike? In my opinion, the whole front of this bike isn't aggressive and it's not goofy. In my opinion, it just has the perfect balance of looks. I really like this front end with the teardropped headlights. They're not trying too hard like some bikes, they're just poised and balanced. A really cool look. And I would almost go as far as to say it's my favorite front end on any bike ever, certainly of any Yamaha I've ever seen. I also especially love the looks of the graphics on the sides, how they fade from black to white, almost giving it a 3D look. That's something you just do not see very often on motorcycle fairings. Well done, Yamaha, you made an absolutely gorgeous motorcycle. Now, although this bike is very good looking, it was more than just a pretty face. Yamaha designed the R7 to compete in the Superbike World Championship and Suzuka 8-hour endurance races. So the R7 had a 749cc dual overhead cam, 20 valve, 5 valves per cylinder inline 4 engine, producing 106 horsepower on the base model for $32,000 US. Now, 106 horsepower for $32,000 might sound like a bad deal, but the R7 was one of the best handling motorcycles Yamaha ever produced, even to this day. And for those who are still not impressed, Yamaha did offer 2 upgrade kits for their R7. The first upgrade increased the horsepower to 135. It did so by activating an unused bank of fuel injectors, and the ECU was updated as well. The second upgrade sold for an additional $12,000 US, and it unleashed the full potential of the R7 by unveiling its full 162 horsepower potential. But of course, there was a problem. The issue was that these upgrades added in a titanium crank as standard, and what happened was the titanium had a manufacturing issue which caused many to crack. Yamaha had to do an official recall to fix these titanium cranks. And even though the bike was upgradable, it was sold standard at only 106 horsepower, and small race teams could not afford the thousands of dollars of racing upgrades necessary to make the R7 competitive. And when they did, the crankshafts failed. But the R7 wasn't really meant to be a common race bike used by budget race teams, and after the recall for the titanium crank was served, the bike was just as reliable as any other race bike. Besides, the R7 was more than just an engine. The frame was especially unique as it had an additional layer of aluminum which helped give torsional stiffness twice that of the R1. Also, it had the most sophisticated suspension parts at that time. The front forks were 43mm inverted units from Öhlins, and the rear shock was also an Öhlins unit, both of which came from the usual list of high-end adjustability. The R7's rigid chassis combined razor-sharp handling with amazing stability and precision. Every detail about the road or track surface and traction was transmitted straight to the rider, allowing more control far in excess of a normal sport bike. The R7 was a thrilling and capable machine, but it was not designed for ordinary roads or ordinary riders. Like its predecessor, the OW01, a similarly exotic 750cc inline-four designed by Yamaha 10 years earlier, the R7 was designed to win the Superbike Championship, as the OW01 had won several races but never won a World Superbike Championship title. Yamaha wasn't greedy. They were completely satisfied with winning just a single World Superbike Championship. But ultimately the R7, like its predecessor, failed to bring home their first title in 1999. And to add insult to injury, Noriaki Haga came close to winning in the year 2000. At the end of the season, Haga was tested positive for the substance ephedrine after the race in South Africa, though it was later learned that ephedrine occurs naturally in the herbs used in the Mahang supplement that he'd taken during the off-season. He initially received a 1-month ban beginning on June 5th and had his points from both South African races deducted. However, after a series of appeals, the points from race 1 in South Africa were reinstated and the ban was delayed and reduced to a 2-week ban, resulting in Haga missing the final round at Brands Hatch, Great Britain. With Haga losing 25 points and sitting out a 2-race weekend, Colin Edwards comfortably won the 2000 World Superbike Championship. Afterwards, Yamaha then disbanded its World Superbike team. The R7's challenge was over and no title was brought home. It may seem at first glance that the Yamaha R7 was a failure, with the reliability issues and the lack of a World Superbike Championship title. But Yamaha did do a recall for those titanium cranks, and the bike was reliable after that, and I believe that the R7 would have had a decent chance at winning the World Superbike Championship if it weren't for the issues during Haga's drug test. The R7 is still to this day my favorite looking bike Yamaha has ever produced, and it's such a shame that I'll most likely never see the bike in person. If you have the opportunity to ever see this bike in person, make sure you take a picture, because even finding pictures to use for this video were extremely difficult. Anyway everyone, this is the rarest bike Yamaha ever created, and now you know all about it. I hope you all enjoyed this video, and as a bonus for making it this far, I'm going to scroll through all the specifications for this bike so you can see every little detail. Finally, as I mentioned in the beginning, a ton of effort goes into these videos. I hope that I have earned consideration from you to hit that subscribe button. The more subscribers I get, the more often I can make these videos. I'm really close to my goal of 100,000 subscribers, and it would make my entire year if I could reach that goal. Please help me out by hitting that subscribe button. Thank you for everything you guys do. I hope you all have a good one.